internet, call me by your name and I'll call you by mine. My name is Shahir Dowd.
And Shahir, is there anything you don't know? My name is Matthew Kroll.
And this is the only podcast about movies, specifically the opposite day film, Call Me By Your Name.
Name. Shahir, how are you?
I'm good, Matt. How are you?
I'm great. I'm loving MCU movies right now. What are you loving?
I would like to... Yes, I did just fart, and it smells like roses.
Yours was mean.
It was not.
Yours was mean.
It was not.
It was. That's the difference between Shahir and Matt. Shahir is a nice guy.
Is it still opposite day?
Yeah.
I don't know. Welcome, everybody. I don't know how long we'll be able to keep up I'm just going to call it. Let's go back to ourselves for now.
Okay.
Because I know we'll fuck it up. Welcome to our humble little program. We are now going to be reviewing Call Me By Your Name.
It feels like you're doing like an NPR radio voice, which might be apropos to this film, but you're like, welcome to NPR's the only podcast about movies. Today we will be reviewing.
I don't know if I can do an Ira Glass or I don't know. I'm not a quiet podcast personality.
No, you are anything but.
No, and I apologize. Some people, in fact, the one negative review I think we've gotten, also amongst some other things, was about my yelling in the beginning, and I'm just a passionate human being.
You know what? If I was more method about this whole name switchy thing, I should have been yelling.
Yeah, that is true, and I should have been quiet and more methodical.
Welcome back, and I'm excited to do this film because the trope is the only podcast about movies.
Sure.
And occasionally, we are the only podcast about movies, and I have to say, I went to my regular feed of other movie-related podcasts.
From alternate dimensions?
I'm not saying that they're out there, but they might be.
But they are.
And I couldn't find a review of this movie. And this is one of the most well-reviewed movies of the year. It is hotly on the Oscar trail this year. And I'm struggling to find reviews of this movie. So we are going to make a pledge to you right now. Please listen in for as long as possible. We will go for as long as possible without spoilers. There aren't too many spoilers to be had in this movie. But please watch this movie and listen to this review, even if you haven't watched this movie, because I think we're one of the few people that are talking about this movie, hopefully in some detail. In fact, to that point of detail, people have been writing us in, as they do and as we are very appreciative of.
At onlymoviepodcast@gmail.com.
Or on our Twitter handle, as listener Mesa did.
OnlyMoviePod.
At OnlyMoviePod. Mesa is a recent listener who's written us in a couple of times now. We appreciate you finding the podcast, and we love that you're part of the Only Podcast community now.
The Topam family.
The Topam. I just, that phrase, Topam just sounds so close to Toe Jam. And I'm like,
hey, I'll take it.
Every time you say Toe Pam, I'm like, the Toe Jam family. Nope. Maybe that's our thing.
Toe Pam.
Maybe we're the Toe Jam family.
We're the Topam family.
Remember that video game, Toe Jam and Earl?
Yeah, it was a great video game.
That's us.
Dibs on Earl.
I'm Toe Jam.
Yep.
And Mesa basically pointed me to a thread that she wrote when she, after she saw Call Me By Your Name. I may be mischaracterizing the way she described this to me, but she was like, I'm not a film reviewer in any way, but I just had to write about this movie once I saw it. And I just wanted to say to her, and I think I said this to, I messaged her directly as well, is that the process of, there is no becoming a film reviewer other than writing about movies.
No, or talking about them to great length, perhaps over the course of upwards of 100 episodes.
Exactly. So the fact that you've gone out and written this thing kind of makes you a film reviewer in this case.
Not even kinda, for real.
I loved what she wrote here. So Mesa, I'm gonna read this out if you don't mind. And this is what she wrote about this film. Call Me By Your Name was as perfect as cinema gets. Real Chalamet and Armie Hammer were incredible. In Elio's growing affection, there was so much admiration towards Oliver. These are the two main characters in the film, played by Timothy Chalamet and Armie Hammer. The nuance between the characters, the build-up of the romance, the exploration, the confusion was powerful. There were even hints of humor. I also appreciated Oliver's hesitancy because it incorporated the difference between American and European views of being true to oneself, especially his decision to hide himself due to his familial and religious ridicule. The last act of the film was the most powerful, with a lingering but chaste embrace between the characters. It was hard for me, even as an audience member enthralled in this romance, to say goodbye. Then the scenes between Elio's mother, Marzia, and ultimately his father, and the understanding of what happened, I just can't. And I think like, to me, again, Meza, the thing here is that your passion for the movie comes out, and it's important to remember that I think one of the things that we're most interested in when we started this podcast, obviously we like not to believe it, but there are other movie podcasts out there. But our job
Show me one.
Our job is not to review the film. I always think that is a mischaracterization of what we do. Our job is to engage with the conversation that the film provokes.
Yes.
And what you did with this series of tweets is engage with the film and think about what the film is offering us. Because to me, film is life, cinema is life, and responding to it in a way that reflects how the film affects your view on life is important. So, Mesa, thank you for pointing me towards your Twitter thread on this. We had a lovely back and forth conversation. I recommended some films to her that I thought she might enjoy, having seen this movie.
Look at you DMing people.
Yeah, I'm straight up in your, I'm sliding right on in your DMs. Ugh.
That's an awful phrase.
Yeah, I hate that phrase. It's so creepy.
That's why I didn't use it.
There you go. A couple of other tweets this week from D Block, who I believe is Darren Byrne, Darren Byrne.
Darren Byrne of the NTV family. What up, Darren?
It was just me replying to his tweet that Royal Tenenbaums is Wes Anderson's best film, whereas I asked, is Rushmore his best film? He responded with, I like The World and the Tenenbaums so much more than Rushmore. I also responded with that I discovered a lot of music from that film, including Nico's album, Chelsea Girls, which is an album I absolutely love. Darren responded with, that is a great soundtrack. He can't listen to that Elliott Smith song, and I think the Elliott Smith song is Needle in the Hay. Without thinking of that scene, of course, as we know, Elliott Smith tragically took his life many years later, and that scene was a scene about committing suicide. So that's to me, that film was entirely present. The only reason I wanted to bring that up is that over the break, I showed my son his first movie.
Like full movie?
He didn't watch the whole thing, but here's the thing. Here's the thing. He wants to keep, every time we have TV time, he wants to continue watching this movie. It's Wes Anderson's film, The Fantastic Mr. Fox. And it's weird because that film is entirely inappropriate for a 2-year-old, but he loves it and he wants to keep watching it. And like he goes, I want to watch the Fox movie. And I like, since then, basically I've watched that movie 3 times now because I'll show him 20 minutes of it, which is about his limit. And then he'll go to sleep and I'll just watch the rest of it.
Right.
And it's slowly becoming one of my favorite Wes Anderson movies of all time.
At this point, I've watched half of it.
Really?
Yeah, I was over at Jamie's. We watched some of it before, but I wanted to actually. I was enjoying it, but I wanted to stop it because it was like 1 a.m, and I was like, I'd like to be fully cognizant to actually watch this movie.
I absolutely adore that film. I think it's so well cast and it's so beautifully made. It's so unexpectedly made. So I'm really looking forward to his new film, Isle of Dogs.
Me too.
Coming out shortly.
I'm going to one day slip over and just rather than that movie, put on What Does the Fox Say for him and see what he thinks of that.
See if he dances.
Yeah,
he has got a weird dance going on now. It's mainly bouncing. I'm trying to show him how to use his hips to dance.
Well, did you tell him that they don't lie?
They don't lie. Yeah, no. Well, that's Shakira. That's me. But his hips...
Shahira.
There you go. His hips do lie because he can't quite isolate the movement of his hips to his body.
He's a child.
He just jumps around. But it is adorable, and we're discovering Wes Anderson.
That's good. That's nice.
I also want to shout out, there's a short film on Vimeo called Mobile, which is made by... Verena Fells. It is the first film my son saw. It is 6 minutes long. He watches it every time he watches movies. Look it up on Vimeo if you can. It's wonderful. It's about a little cow on a mobile station that hangs above a baby's crib.
Do you think he only thinks there's 2 movies at this point?
He knows that there are 3 movies in existence.
That's great.
It's funny is because there's a whole DVD collection that he has that he grabs and throws against the wall occasionally. He doesn't.
And that doesn't put it up on the screen. That's so odd.
It's what I love as well, by the way. He actually lost a movie that I just bought on the Criterion Collection, a movie Patha Pachali by Satyajit Ray. I bought the trilogy.
Well, you can't leave such an interesting thing for a child around and expect him not to touch it.
I emailed the Criterion Collection and said, hey, my kid threw this film away. Would you mind sending me a replacement disc? I wrote this whole story about how he lost it into the netherworld. They were very nice and they're sending me a replacement
That's lovely.
So shout out to the Criterion Collection. Shout out to Wes Anderson. Shout out to
your son.
Satyajit Ray. Shout out to my son. And welcome to the only podcast about movies, Call Me By Your Name.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah,
You just sort of...
I'm just trying to bring it back because I know I took a long diversion there.
Well, if you want to, write us in, again, onlymoviepodcast@gmail.com, and you can do that too, and you can hear... Then maybe Shahir will ask you for free things.
Yeah, exactly. I will
Great
still
email.
do my Criterion Corner. By the way,
about a
the Fantastic
sandwich?
Mr. Fox is available on the Criterion Collection.
Well,
there you go.
Looks like it's time to upgrade.
Yeah, I know I do own it.
Yeah, Call Me By Your Name. You want me to read the description?
Sure.
Okay. In northern Italy in 1983, 17-year-old Elio begins a relationship with visiting Oliver, his father's research assistant, with whom he bonds over his emerging sexuality, their Jewish heritage, and the beguiling Italian landscape.
Is it beguiling?
Well, let me okay, hold on. Before we even get into this movie, let's talk a little bit about this beguiling Italian landscape.
Okay.
I want to live in northern Italy in 1983 because apparently no one worries about anything. Anything logistical. They're in a mansion. They're having meals prepped for them. They get to wear short shorts and open shirts that are too big for them, and they just get to
short shorts that are too short as well.
Yeah, and they get to just wander around with their hot young bodies and hang out all over the damn place and play volleyball, and then it's lunchtime, and then just friends are coming over. It's like sexy.
It's like stepping into an Armani commercial.
It's like stepping into a sexy Armani commercial. The way of what's that show that takes place in British thing that nothing happens but everyone loves, and it's all
The Office?
No, fuck. Oh god, I can't believe I can't do this. It's like not medieval, but it's like
Blackadder?
Olden English. No, it's very serious, but it's only someone didn't use
Crown?
the right china. No, it's less having to go on with it. Downton Abbey.
Oh,
Bam.
This is not Downton Abbey.
No.
This is.
I'm saying it's Downton Abbey the way of a sexy Armani commercial because it's like.
I don't know if Armani is the right brand. As well.
I don't know.
What's more casual wear?
I'll ask Jamie at some point what brand this movie should be. Banana Republic?
No.
B-Rep?
Yeah.
No, but I'm just saying, holy shit, what a lifestyle.
So this is the third film by Luca Guadagnino, which he calls his Italian vacation trilogy or his Italian summer trilogy. And that is I Am Love.
So perfect.
I Am Love, A Bigger Splash, and Now Call Me By Your Name. I have seen all three, and I will say this. I think I tweeted this as well when after I saw the film. I think he has done more for Italian vacations than Expedia has in their lifetime.
Yeah.
I had a film of mine play at an Italian film festival called the Giffoni Film Festival, which is in this small town close to the Amalfi Coast. And I
love the Amalfi Coast.
I went there.
Positano is my favorite.
Oh, it's the most. I'm from New Zealand. And I would say Positano and the Amalfi Coast are probably the most beautiful places on earth.
Oh my! I have stories.
And I went to Giffoni, and it was basically this. We languished in the sun. We ate fine cheese and salami.
Sounds gross when you say it.
And grapes on the grass, and we had dinner served to us in a cathedral by the town all the Italian mothers prepared this meal.
God.
And it was just the most wonderful experience. I hope to go back to that film festival. And his trilogy reminds me so much of that time in Italy. But more than that, I Am Love, the 2008 film or 2009, starring Tilda Swinton, is not just it's not just one of my favorite films that I saw in the last decade. It is quite possibly one of my favorite films of all time. It would definitely be within the top 10, if not the top 5 films of my life that I've ever seen. It is an extraordinary film. It is a film that kind of brings me to tears just thinking about it. And it's available on Netflix right now. You should please watch it. It is much more It's much more structured than Call Me by Your Name. It's much more formal than Call Me by Your Name. It has a kind of visual flourish and sensibility that Call Me by Your Name doesn't have. So you might be shocked to thinking it's made by the same filmmaker, but it is just sublime and gorgeous, and everything that I love in cinema is in this movie, I Am Love, and I was absolutely devastated by it, and I rewatched it recently, and it is just one of the most astounding pieces of filmmaking I've ever seen. And Luca Guadagnino is part of this sort of new wave of Italian filmmakers, including a filmmaker who I believe you love, Paolo Sorrentino, who made Youth, The Great Beauty and Il Divo, Matteo Garrone, who made Gomorrah.
I gotta watch Youth again.
Yeah. He's part of this brand. I mean, I don't want to characterize an entire group of filmmakers because I haven't done enough research on it. And obviously Italy has a fine, rich tradition of filmmaking, but it seems to me that there is this sort of wave of modernist Italian filmmakers that are coming now that have both a handle on the formal technique of cinema, and a commanding grasp on storytelling that is somehow languid and fluid, and you could even describe as lazy in the way that a warm summer's day is lazy, which is that things happen in a way that is beautiful and everlasting, but without feeling like it's imposing.
Yes,
which I think is true of Youth as well.
Yeah. Though this film in particular, Call Me by Your Name, that's the setting. I feel like, and much to the film's usefulness, I will say, the way, especially the first 2/3 and maybe the first 2 acts, I guess, are sort of shot of this movie, are a little off-putting for the setting.
Yeah.
And that being that no one's really in I want to say not focus as in like focal length and being a blurry image, but the focal points of the frames that they use are never really standardized, and the only time you ever have a full character like where you're used to sort of them being is when Elio is on the screen, because you're supposed to be experiencing it, I think, more through his eyes. And so when you first meet Oliver and when he's going through the house and like all this stuff, like it's like these weird like haphazard glimpses, and whenever it is a full shot of Oliver, like it's always a powerful low angle,
right?
And like it's I got it. And I liked it to a point, but it was very overt.
Okay.
And it was, I don't know, it was an interesting juxtaposition. Like, I understand what it's going through, and obviously there's your first sort of real love in this thing, and that's a powerful thing that can throw you off anywhere. So I think narratively and meta-narratively it works for the film. It was just something that, like, while I thought it worked well for what the film wanted to do, I was always taken back by it a little bit until I was lulled maybe around the middle of the second act, being like, okay.
This is, again, I would describe, there's an interesting thing between I Am Love, A Bigger Splash, and this film, which is that I Am Love is so tightly constructed. It is such a formal exercise. It is almost Scorsesean in its formality.
Sure.
I think it's also, I Am Love is almost a love letter to Jonathan Demme. It uses references to Philadelphia in that film. And then in A Bigger Splash, he still has some of those formal elements, but he kind of loosens them up to the point where they become erratic. They don't happen in a way. They happen in a way that is surprising. Like a musical number will start, and then kind of like abandoned, cut quickly out of it with almost no rhyme or reason. The camera will become fluid and drift around a room and then suddenly land on a frame and stay there for like another minute. It feels like he's kind of like, he has full command of the cinematic language, but he's almost playing like a jazz player now, which is that he's not like using, he doesn't have like a rigidity to his formal structure anymore. It's kind of like, I'm going to do a big sweeping camera move here, and then I'm going to land here and just do like a shot, two shot reverse. And then I'm going to like have this music beat play out really, really loud and last for like the next 3 scenes and then just snap out of it without any, it doesn't, it feels, the thing is that it feels haphazard, but it's done by someone who clearly has a command of the cinematic language as demonstrated by those other films. Matt, I kind of want to get your initial overall impressions of this film before we start breaking it down.
Yeah, performance is nuts. Acting across the board, even characters I didn't think I would like, I liked, or I felt something towards, I should say, and I felt that what the film was trying to get me to feel. Yeah, the cinematography, I think, is sort of just the way it sort of worked. From what I said and what you just said, I think it was an interesting choice. I don't think it was what would have drawn me in the fastest. But looking at it as a whole, I think it was interesting and good. The editing was a little bit sort of jazzy too. Again, I know it's servicing the story. That threw me off more than anything else, I think. But again, it wasn't enough to make me be like, ooh. It did get a little too, and I don't know what the term... obvious art film-ish from time to time.
What do you mean by that?
I don't know. I don't know if that's the right phrase. I'll describe what I'm describing and then
describe what you think.
Like a couple sort of things, like 2 or 3 times in the story, as the story is progressing, characters will read a poem or a thing or have a conversation that's exactly like what's going on in the story. Or have a conversation with the character that's like whatever, and it's just almost like allegorically the exact same thing, and you as the audience is like, oh, that's what's happening to you. Like there's a few of too many of those, I feel. Also, little touches I feel like were always overdone, like The Fly. Did you notice The Fly?
I noticed there were flies in the film.
So The Fly only happened when Elio, or actually any character, but it only happened to Oliver once. The Fly only shows up when you have that sort of itch of wanting that other person.
Did you see Chris Stuckman's review about this film? Which
No.
he has a long rant about the fly and the fly metaphor, and
it annoyed me, and it annoyed me because it's clever, but then when it's like you've actually said this in a couple things, when you keep doing the same magic trick over and over and over again, you're like, okay.
I'm struck by this whole obsession with the fly thing because it's something that I didn't notice, and it's something where I would just account it to. There are flies in that neighborhood, I watched as it happened. They never happen outside of these. Like it's purposefully. They were put there. But here's what I would say. Do you think
that's so funny? I thought I was being a nitpicker, but apparently other people are too.
But do you think that they purposely, like, let's break down the logistics here. Do you think they purposely had flies?
Yes,
standing by?
Or that's digital.
Or you think that's digital?
Because it literally represented every time Elio was in a moment where he's trying to not think about.
Give me an example, because I'm
any
not
of them.
convinced.
So Oliver, the first time he starts thinking about Oliver in sort of a romantic way, the fly shows up, and he's brushing the fly off consistently in the beginning. Then as it's sort of happening and or as they sort of have are we getting into
this is not a fly.
They fall in love.
Fly on a scene is not a spoiler.
But the way the fly interacts with Elio is a bit of a spoiler. Like there's a time of estrangement where they're not actually talking after their first sort of not even tryst, just sort of moment of acceptance a little bit of what they're both feeling.
Yeah.
And the fly is there but never brushed away. It's always when Elio is thinking of Oliver. There's a moment when Elio tries to sort of turn the tables a little bit on Oliver, and then there's one moment when Oliver was like, no, where the fly's there for a second, and he gets up and he takes care of business and kind of reverts power back. And then, hold on. Okay. And then at the end, there's 2 different flies on him when he's at the bus station. And he has a large emotional reaction, and at the very end, the last shot, there are flies on him. There's 2 or 3 flies.
Okay.
They are there for a purpose, because nowhere else in any of the exterior scenes are there flies. Now, again, I almost feel like now that I didn't know this was a whole big thing from other people too. Like
just one reviewer.
It's just a small thing where you're doing a tiny little trick that's like kind of like, look at this metaphor. In the same way of, look at this piece of literature that ties exactly with the story I wrote around this piece of literature. Like, that gets tiresome to me because I'm like, I get it.
Yeah.
And then sort of just the last bit of thing I'll say before we can roll on is both Elio and Oliver are kind of selfish people. They hurt a couple people along the way. And then, but this is what else. This is the most interesting part about the movie for me. I feel like I've been kind of shitting on it. And the reason I'm kind of shitting on it is, and I'll reveal this at the end of this in about 20 minutes, but I went the entire time I'm watching this. It kept me enthralled, no question, but enthralled with oh my God, this is beautiful. Oh, fuck this movie. Oh shit, this is really great. This is the dumbest shit I've ever seen. Like I haven't had a waveform of love and just being like, what the fuck in so long.
Yeah.
And by the end of it, I didn't think I would have the reaction I had at the end that I did. Well, that is be. I'll give it.
No, it's not a spoiler. I mean,
no, but I'll save it for the end of the review.
Okay.
Whether or not I actually, I think this is an excellent film or something that's touted way too fucking much.
Okay.
So that
which is it? Do you think? Do you think it's an excellent film or it's touted way too
I'm
much?
leaving it to the end, Shahir.
I want your opinion on the movie.
Well, what about you? Talk me through your experience of it.
Okay, so the thing that I thought about a lot as I was watching this movie is something I've been thinking about in terms of filmmaking and storytelling in general, and that is the cumulative effect of storytelling. And one of the things that I was sort of struck by in this movie was the absence of narrative drive, the absence of major events happening. What this movie kind of trades in interesting ways is minute moments. It trades in like the minutia of moments, and there are things like, for example, the way Oliver eats an egg is labored over and kind of we as you say we look at it through the eyes of Elio, and it's sensual, but it's not overtly sensual. You know, it's the way he plays volleyball, which is sexy, but it's not like we don't labor over it like, and the only example I can think of right now is Megan Fox in a Transformers movie. It's not that kind of sexy.
Sure.
It's sexy in a way that it's like, oh, hey, you kind of lean over and go, oh, that's pretty hot. And the film kind of operates on that level for 90% of it. It is literally a film where people fall in and out of relationships, where people have sex and it's inconsequential. People, you know, like glance at each other and it means the world. And the thing is I was kind of, I felt like this movie was very slight until it got to the third act, when I realized the cumulative effect of what I've been experiencing had just made the earth move on its axis. And the final act of this movie is a sense of, oh, first love is really one of the most devastating and important things that can happen in a person's life.
Sure.
And that's what this film is. It feels slight, but it really is about the most important thing that can happen to you. And when I think about my life, it's all about, you know, like the triumphs and failure of love. Those are the things that matter the most to me. Those are the things that have happened in my life that mean the most when I think about them in retrospect. And that's,
really?
Yeah, it really is. It is the triumph and failure of love. That would be the summation of the things that matter the most to me. And that's what this film does. And by the end of it, the cumulative effect of a film that feels slight is entirely devastating. And that was my and then obviously this is the entire third act is hinged upon one single monologue, which is quite possibly the most beautiful monologue I've seen this year.
It's so fucking good
and performed by
Jesus. If I gotta
Michael
find
Stuhlbarg.
Oh my God,
Michael Stuhlbarg, who is a terrific actor. If you can, please see A Serious Man. He's also in another film we'll be reviewing called The Shape of Water. He is an astonishing actor, and it is an astonishing piece of writing by James Ivory, one half of the Ivory Merchant filmmaking team. Now, the thing that in terms of that cumulative effect and the sense that this is a film that is steeped in minutia, is I was thinking a lot about the late 1990s and Quentin Tarantino. And Quentin Tarantino obviously came out with a film called Pulp Fiction around the same time as James Ivory came out with a film called The Remains of the Day. And these were two divergent paths in cinema. James Ivory and the Merchant Ivory team had made kind of a classical Oscar film about the restraint of English society. The Remains of the Day is an absolutely wonderful film starring Anthony Hopkins and Emma Thompson, and it's about two butlers in a sort of English estate who love each other but can't express it, much like this film. And Tarantino came out with Pulp Fiction, which was all guns, violence, the new wave of American cinema, which was, which influenced an entire generation of filmmakers beyond that. And they came out at the same time, and Tarantino famously was like, at least, I think Tarantino won the MTV Movie Awards, and he was like, thank fucking Christ, it's one time I'm not going to be beaten by either The Remains of the Day or Forrest Gump. And as time has gone on, obviously the influence of Tarantino has weighed more on American cinema than James Ivory. But this is a reminder, again, I love The Remains of the Day, and I might be old fashioned, but I think that is a sort of wonderful, devastating film about restraint, about the restraint of love. And this film was a reminder to me of the talents of James Ivory in writing these scenes where the minutia is the most important thing. It is the tiniest glances. It's like when Elio watches Oliver dance, and it's like, oh God, he's a terrible dancer, but he does it with such a lack of restraint, and he dances with his whole body, and he doesn't care that he looks bad doing it. He just dances, and it's like, that is attractive. That is a sensual thing. And what this film had me do was kind of watch things from a point of sensuality where the enormity of small moments is what is sensual. And I think it's something that a lot of movies don't do. It's something that we, in a sort of sex, infused, quasi-pornographic, advertising drenched world, don't think about it much anymore. Is the sense of sex and sexuality being integral to our brains and our minds, And so the moments that you're describing where they're talking about antiquities and classics, and there's a wonderful scene where Oliver is describing the etymology of I can't remember which word it is that they have an ongoing debate about the history of a particular word. It kind
apricot.
Was it apricot?
Yep.
Yeah, it was apricot. And
because there's apricot trees on the property.
Yeah, that's right. Which eventually will come back later as they...
I'll call it the apricot fucking paradox.
Yeah, right. Look, I love hearing smart people on film talk about smart things that I can't describe very well. And when it's done convincingly, these are characters who are intellectuals who are academics. When they do it convincingly, I'm like there. And what's funny, what's interesting about it, again, in the minutiae of this film, is that description of apricot is an act of sensuality. And the film views it as an act of sensuality because we're viewing it from Elio's point of view, and it is the way in which Oliver rebukes his father and then comes back with more information. And everyone glances around the room afterwards when they say, he kind of knows what he's talking about.
But that was a test, right?
It was a test, but it's an interesting test that works, right?
Yeah, but so, I'm saying it was an interesting rebuke of the father, but the father sort of planted it.
Yeah, and then this all kind of funnels back to that absolutely devastating monologue at the end of the film that Michael Stuhlbarg has. It's sort of it's a weird thing. Most films kind of operate on this sort of central axis, which happens at the beginning of the film, what you would classically call in a screenplay the inciting incident. This film hinges upon the concluding incident, which is the revelation that that Elio has about his Michael Stuhlbarg's response to this whole turn of events.
Sure.
And it's this reversal. But again, it worked for me, and it had me in tears. It had me thinking about fatherhood, and it had me thinking about this sense of I thought a lot about my son while I was watching this movie, and I thought a lot about my son while I was watching that scene, and it was like this scene feels like this incredible, it's an incredible rebuke of what we thought was true of the rest of this film. And it's entirely refutes what we think is true. And yet at the same time, it's tender and it's loving and it opens up the film in a way that I hadn't thought possible. And it leads into this final act that this final shot that is just beautiful and devastating. I think this problem, as an addition to the popularization of queer cinema that trades in heterosexuality as the norm, like we've got two heterosexual actors playing homosexual characters or, bisexual characters in this film, is problematic. And I think it's something that like it's something that we have to address.
Well, that's a problematic thing systematically, not necessarily in this film, just in film in general.
The film operates beautifully. As you can guess, I absolutely adored this film. It left a deep imprint on me, and it was a week in which I saw this film, Three Billboards, and The Last Jedi. And
you've mentioned it on all three podcasts.
Yeah, and this was the film that stayed with me, that made an imprint, that made me want to talk about it. So it was just an absolutely wonderful moment, a wonderful moment to see on film this year.
So so the end of my thing, did I love it or I hated it? I think I loved it.
Mm-hmm.
But I also, it's not without its own problems. Like the journey of watching this film is more interesting to me than the film itself.
Okay.
I've never watched a thing where I'm like, I love it, I hate it. I love it, I hate it. I love it. Fuck this. Oh my God, this is great. Okay. Like, that does not happen.
Not in any movie.
Have you ever had that? Because it was a very foreign feeling thing to me.
Okay. I can't think of one off the top of my head.
It's normally like it eats away at you and you form your opinion.
Three Billboards was a film where I was like I love it, and I'm not on board with this. I guess I'm never like, I hate it, I love it.
Because I was watching it, and like the beginning, I didn't like the style, and then that scene with the apricot thing, I was like, that's really clever. Okay, and then I noticed this other thing, and then it's like, okay, this is pretty, and then like I don't know, it just kept going up, down, up, down, up, down, to the point where there's some interesting, and I know it's commentary, like when Elio eventually has sex with a young woman, and as his sort of first sexual experience.
Is it? I don't know.
Or does it happen before or after?
It happens before he has sex with Oliver.
So it is, because he talks about even to Oliver and his dad at the dinner table, like, I almost had sex last night. Like, I think that's equating to the fact that he hadn't before. Anyway, it doesn't matter.
I'm not entirely sure if it was or wasn't a sexual experience.
But that's sort of like, this movie does a great job most of the time, not sort of trying to show the true romance of a moment as opposed to sort of fetishizing a moment.
Yeah.
But sometimes I feel like I fell a little bit into sort of not exploitive, but just sort of like, look how fucking sexy this is. Like in both in the male female one and then the male male one, like, but not every scene. And it was weird how like some of them I was like, this is amazing. This is showing love on the screen. Like, I'm really digging. Like, this is great. And then other ones, and I'll go back to the apricot fucking paradox. So spoilers. There's a scene where a character kind of fucks an apricot.
Yeah.
And not in the comedical way you've seen in other films of people fucking inanimate objects. And that whole interaction, this is it. So that happens. He gets walked in on by Elio's fucking the apricot. Oliver walks in on him, and then he's embarrassed, and then like the Oliver's trying to make it into like a sexy thing, and it just felt so fucking weird to me. I was just like, no. I was like, movie, fuck you.
What? Why?
Ben, hold on. And I think this sort of, it'll even tie back into the speech at the end, because love and the way we experience these things, sexual or emotional, is never a clean thing. So this moment happened that I was just kind of like, oh, why are you showing me this shit? And then when finally Elio is like super embarrassed and kind of breaks down because he doesn't know what he's feeling and thinking, the acting on both their parts, but specifically Armie Hammer at that moment, when he goes from like trying to be like sly and sexy and kind of like dirty sexy, into like, oh my God, this person I really care about is actually like really hurting. You see that swap on his face. And I realized, like much of the movie, the reason it's showing me these things that I don't particularly like, or I don't think are done well, is it's showing and trying to evoke the feeling of the dirty parts of love that you don't really like and don't feel that great.
Right.
And it does that. And the moment he switches over from this like weirdly like, ugh, like trying to be sexy nonsense thing into like, fuck, this is a human that I absolutely love and now is hurting because maybe something I did.
Right.
And it's one of the most beautiful turns I think I've seen. It will definitely in a fruit fucking scene, but in all honesty,
Is this
like
an American Pie?
in all honesty, very much so in any film that I've seen. And then to have the 1-2 punch of sort of that moment into then it kind of lost me a little bit, but I gave it more bearing when they like went away for the weekend. I liked that the parents were like cool with it, and then when they came back. And there's and he has the conversation with his father once he returns from the vacation after Oliver leaves.
Yeah.
That scene it made the roller coaster ride of uncomfortable to loving it to uncomfortable to loving it like all make sense and be worthwhile. And it was by far the most engaging and interesting film going experience I've had in a long time. Now, does that equate to enjoyable for me?
Yeah.
I don't know. It's funny. This is one of those things where I watched it and I was like, I really, at the end of this, when I was walking out, I had a big smile on my face and I really enjoyed the ride. I want other people to see it. I don't think I'll see it again.
Right.
Because I think it delivered the emotional punches that it was trying to do, or punches / caresses, however you all of the above. It delivered those to me,
right.
And this is in no way. I don't want anyone to take this away as a slight to this movie. You should see this movie.
Yeah.
But I can't say this will not go down as like one of my favorite films I've seen. It will go down as one of the most interesting viewing experiences I've ever had, either emotionally or critically with the film. And for that, I have to give it praise.
Okay. There's an interesting thing in the way you're describing what you're talking about. One is that it sounded like the film challenged you.
It challenged me in a sense of style and what's the word I'm looking for? Sort of the technical ways it's said before, and also the magic tricks being shown in my face again and again and again and again. I was like, that really bugged me.
Mm-hmm.
The love story I feel like really worked.
Mm-hmm.
It was natural feeling, and the ways of sort of first love that sort of requited and then unrequited, and then like, that whole thing felt very real to me.
Yeah.
But there's moments I think where the movie's trying to be like, and again, this is a harsher sounding thing that I think they're actually trying to do. The moments where the love story's happening, I'm enthralled. Mm-hmm. The moments where it gets a little bit gratuitous or a little bit like, look at this thing that's like this thing we're showing you.
What are some moments where the thing is showing?
I mean, again, the apricot scene, if you take it out of context, the scene where they're talking about the statues, the scene where the mother and father and Elio are reading the poem that's exactly about what's going on. There was one other big one and I'm blanking on it right now. There was just a bunch of sort of like that where I felt it just like, I'm like, I get it. Like the things your characters are referencing are exactly what's going on with the character. Oh, and the fly plays into that as well.
Okay.
So I don't particularly like it when things beat you over the head or get like a little, like a little bit gratuitous. Mm-hmm. Especially when you're doing so much other stuff right. Mm-hmm. Like this, like the beauty of sort of Elio's first love and Oliver, and just sort of like, they're not supposed to do this thing, but then they do it. And then it's like, it's oddly okay. And like, I like as far as from the family's perspective.
Yeah.
And there's even a beautiful moment they're talking on the phone at the end where he's like, your father spoke to me like I was family. He's like, that's the best thing you could hope for. Like my father would send me to a correctional facility.
Yeah.
It challenged me from this is what it is. I hate using art film as the negative word, but I don't know what else to call these tropes of I'll just call it magic tricking because I don't want to insult art film's great. And this film's great. But the second that like it's doing amazing shit, but then it's like and check out this shit that works on a narrative, on a meta narrative level. And you're like, woo. And I'm like, cool, but can we get back? And then we get back to it. I'm like, sweet. And then it's like, here's that fucking fly again. I'm like, okay. Anyway, I'm nitpicking right now, and I'm sorry.
Well, no, it's this. There's an interesting thing, which is that the way you're describing these things is with a sense of hostility. And I don't want to mischaracterize what you're saying, but you're saying like you're annoyed when the film does this, and you're angry. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. That's what it sounds like you're saying.
Yeah. Because I don't like films that do smart things and then do things that are like, look how smart we're being. Do you see how smart we're being right now?
Do you think the film? Because the one thing to me is that the film is slight on almost every level. It underplays almost every scene, and the fly thing for me is like, again, it's something I barely noticed, and I kind of chalked it up, and maybe this is imprecise viewing on my part, but I chalked it up to being there are flies in this world, and flies are flies, and it is what it is. I guess the thing for me is that this comes down to what we were talking to Mesa, who wrote in on Twitter and who kind of had a response to this film, is that, and again for me as well, is also the cumulative effect of this film. Does the cumulative effect of this film move you?
Yes, but it would have been a more enjoyable time doing so, which might not have been the point of the movie if it didn't consistent, like the moments where this movie sang to me was in the slightness,
right?
But then it broke its slightness 2 or 3 major times for me, and I was like, okay, I get it.
Right.
I get it. Go back to what you're doing great. Stop talking about what it is great that you're doing. And that's what got me. That's what kept pulling me out. Because, and again, I know I make fart jokes about this sort of thing. That to me is the smelling of your own farts. This movie is so good. It is so good.
What is an art house movie?
I mean, the joke of it is sort of like the things that don't have a very sort of narrative story. That's why I don't want to use art film as the thing.
What I mean, okay, but you've used that term here.
But I've recounted it every time. I don't think that's correct.
Okay, what is? I mean, because clearly
pretension. I guess pretension is what I'm
right.
And I don't think this movie is pretentious.
Yeah,
I think
what is pretentious to you?
I think it makes pretentious moves. Pretension is when you do something really smart and you're super sort of proud, like, and sort of peacockingness about like how the smart thing that you did, like, hey, see how clever I was?
Right.
Like,
but does the acts of pretension in this film betray the narrative reach of what they're trying to do? Like, what I'm saying here is, does it
annoys me,
right? And
it knocks me out of it. Now, the way that the emotional roller coaster of this film sort of went, I think it might actually, my annoyance of that might serve even the way this sort of movie is supposed to have its ups and downs even more.
Right.
But that doesn't take away from the fact that I had negative feelings towards this movie because I thought it was being pretentious from time to time.
Right.
I love but the other thing is, and especially, and you know me, I get more mad at things that have like a perfect 90% of a film and then the ending bombs, in my opinion.
Right.
Because I'm like, you're right there. Mm-hmm. You just literally ran up, to sports analogy, to the goal line of the post and then you dropped the ball or whatever. Like this movie, and this movie doesn't do that, but this movie it was like climbing its peak to greatness and then stumble for me. And then, okay, no, we're back. We got some footing. And I just wish it would stay with I wish it would have, no, more faith isn't the word I'm looking for. I just wish it would not have to constantly call out a meta narrative about what's going on with the characters through things the characters are reading or doing in their day jobs.
But do you think that is true to what these characters would do? Like, these are characters.
Yes, but it's too convenient. These characters who live in this 1983 villa in northern Italy that have no problems whatsoever, and the son is going to lie on the parents' lap. The 17-year-old son's going to lie in the parents' lap and read a poem that happens to be in a part in this book that the mother's reading that happens to exactly encompass exactly what's going on exactly in this time period of this young boy's life. That's convenient, and it's trite, and I get what you're trying, what it's trying to do, but that, to me, that level of like, that's the kind of shit that strips.
What was the poem about?
It was about whether or not a knight should say how he feels about was a princess or something or whatever. Just it's the same sort of should Elio say how he feels about Oliver, and they have a conversation about that later in the thing before as their sort of relationship is budding. It's those moments that are I think you get mad at them more in plot conveniences where this doesn't officially affect plot, but this is still a narrative convenience that this is where I see the writing is when the writer writes in writings that are exactly what's happening with the characters. And it's kind of the same problem. I think it all comes back to I have problems about stories written about writers,
right?
Because it's just this weird sort of masturbatory exercise that in this film I feel like is completely unneeded. There's so much good. Right. Like I really love parts about this movie, and it challenged me when that's when I kept seeing like that's like the man behind the curtain peeking and being like, "You liking the movie? Okay, cool." Like that to me, and I think it could have done without those. I think it could have been stronger, and it might be but at the same time, if those were gone. I wouldn't have this crazy, interesting film going experience that I had. And I enjoyed overall, especially, again, right at the turn of the apricot fucking paradox and the speech from the father. Holy shit. Like, it tied everything. It was like, yes. Yeah. Like, it was so good. So if you're looking at a lump sum of whether or not I enjoyed this movie, I 100% enjoyed this movie.
Right.
I just have, and I'm passionate about liking this movie. But because I'm passionate about liking it, I'm also going to be passionate about the one or two things I'm like, okay, guys.
Right. I guess the thing that I'm sort of curious about here is that the way you're describing those things has a level of hostility about them.
Yeah, I just told you why.
Yeah, but there's a level of hostility about them that I guess I wouldn't see in, say, a narrative contrivance in another movie,
but like this is the same level of hostility that you're using, and I'm trying to follow you down this rabbit hole that I used for Spotlight.
Right.
It's the same level of hostility that I've used in times when I feel like a movie is, quote, liking the smell of its own farts.
Right.
I get angry at these things,
right?
Because and I feel like the closer a film gets to greatness, in my opinion, and when they do these things, that's when I get even more mad, because it's like, you know better. Like, right. You know better than to do this. Right. So that's, I mean, I would say, honestly, Spotlight would probably be the same level of hostility a bit. But though I don't think Spotlight, this is the difference. I don't think Spotlight's good. I think this movie's, Call Me By Your Name is great.
Right.
Anyway, that's me. That's out of my final thoughts, I guess.
Yeah.
Shahir, I know this was a real big, I mean, you really wanted to talk about this movie. If you had to
actually, to be honest with you, I was kind of 50-50 on wanting to talk about it, because I was kind of like, well, I don't know, I didn't want to subject you to this movie because I didn't know if you would enjoy it or not.
Why? Why is that?
Because I don't know if this is the kind of film that you would seek out on your own. Right.
Going into it, I didn't watch a trailer.
Right. And I mean,
but when has that stopped you before?
Yeah, I mean, we I guess the thing for me is, like, if we come back to our conversations about Star Wars and what have you, and just listening to this reader, Mesa, talk about this movie.
And I think it's great that they had that response to it. I think it's wonderful.
Is that this is a movie that deeply affected me. It is a movie that deeply moved me and deeply changed my view of what I thought was going to happen in this film, and I was taken aback by that, and I like, for me, those are the experiences I look for in movies.
And you didn't want me to ruin them for
no I what I didn't want, what I guess I'm curious about is, I'll say it, is the hostility to which you are describing some of those things. Whereas, like, to me, again, it's that thinking about the cumulative effect of this film is that I am deeply moved by the cumulative effect of this film.
As am I, yes.
But if you have those opinions, that is they're totally valid. My thing has always been, if you see a scene that doesn't work for you, talk about that scene, and you've done that. And that is what you should do. I guess I'm curious by, again, that hostility to this film.
I'm really curious because you keep bringing up the hostility that I have. Again, I'm hostile to a lot of films.
You are,
and this has never come up before.
No, it has. Come up before.
Not like this. And
you're very hostile towards Spotlight, for example.
Yeah. The interesting thing, honestly, is to me is. So let's say I'm being hostile towards the parts of this film. I'll say the 10%, 7% of this film that I could have done without.
Yeah.
That's me at least sort of being passionate about the fact I disliked a thing.
Right.
Where what I find incredibly sort of insulting from time to time from you about Star Wars, about other things, etc., is just the hand wave of it. Mm-hmm. Where you have I would rather you fucking hate Star Wars.
Right.
Like, I would rather you had and all these reasons to back it up and just a ton of vitriol for it.
Right.
Because at least I would know that you were thinking about it, that you were passionate about it.
Right.
And so and to me, if I have to choose between, this goes back to even me, right? If I had to choose what I'd rather, if I had to choose someone that fucking hated me or that never thought about me, I would rather they hate me.
Right.
And so it's weird that my hostility is a little bit sort of offensive to you.
It's not offensive to me, by the way. That's the thing. I'm curious about your response to the film.
No, I think I honestly think I've laid out, and of course you can go back to the back catalog about these things where I do get angry at sort of when a film goes to what I would consider greatness and stumbles here and there sometimes at the end. This one, no, this one's ending is pristine. Yeah. So it's just I think I've sort of explained as to why that is there. But again, I don't think any hostilities in my case here are a note to ever not go see this. Like, you should 100% go see this. It was, again, one of the most interesting times I've had at the theater.
Right.
And I left with a smile on my face. Like, it was really an experience to have. And it made me think about it has a way of building you up through your own life and having that it makes you relive all the shit and wonderment sort of your first love, and that's something that's beautiful.
Right.
The only problems that I have are what I said before. It shows its hand once or twice a little too many times, and it wants to. It's like peeking at you, making sure you're getting it, when of course you're getting it because it's made so well.
Right.
Anyway.
This one thing I just going into my final thoughts here is that this film has an embarrassment of riches when it comes to the soundtrack. We have listened to the soundtrack at my house on repeat for the last 3 weeks since I saw this movie. I'm going to pronounce his name horribly, but Sufjan Stevens' Mystery of Love is basically the only reason I'll watch the Oscars. I don't typically watch the Oscars now, but I would love to see him perform this song live. I also the score features Ryuichi Sakamoto, which is a composer that my old college he wasn't my roommate, but a guy in my dorm, Eric Gage, who I think does listen to this podcast on occasion, introduced me to when I was making films at a younger age. And he forced me to think about film scores and film soundtracks in a way that I hadn't conceived before. He made me rewrite. I just scored a movie to a Portishead track, and he was like, "No, this is garbage. You need to actually think about the score the way you would think about the images." So, and then Ryuichi Sakamoto was a big part of that. Listening to Ryuichi Sakamoto, who does this wonderful score for Merry Christmas, Mr. Lawrence. The totality of this film, the cumulative effect of this film is quietly devastating, and it made me think about, again, the triumph and failure of love. And it was interesting because this is a film about first love and the way in which first love, when we think about it when we're older, is so seemingly insignificant. But what this film did for me was bring me back to that moment where first love is the earth shifting on its axis, and the final moments of Elio staring into a fireplace, quietly reliving the love and the failure of love in this case, is all the devastation I need, and again is just a wonderful moment of cinematic poetry for me.
Very smart to use that sort of as a credits too.
Yeah, as a credit. So it reminded me of what was that film with George Clooney with Michael Clayton.
Batman and Robin.
Yeah, it was Batman and Robin, Michael Clayton.
Yeah.
So I adored this film. I enjoy that you have a response to this movie. You're right. Star Wars doesn't evoke a response to me. It is a hand wave for me because Star Wars does nothing for me emotionally.
Right. And I find that I mean, again, just on a personal level, or what if I was the film, I would find that more offensive.
Right.
Anyway, this has been the only podcast about the film Call Me by Your Name, and I hope that's not true.
Yeah. You can call me by your name anytime.
Where can folks find you when you're calling your own name?
You can call me by my name at my website, www.shahirdaud.com. That's SHAHIRDAUD.com. Matt, where can you call me by your name?
You can call me by my name, by me, myself, and I, at Matthew Kroll, MATTHUWKROL.com for my life and work. So convenient that both of our names are our actual websites.
Yeah.
You can find me at Skeletor, 4, PREZ on Instagram, or Emperor MSK on Twitter. Also, Friendship Watch is still in effect on Twitch with James Portnow and the Extra Credits crew. That's 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Twitch. Go check out Extra Credits at Twitch. And that is it for now. See you next week.
See you next week. Bye-bye.